Hi, everybody. Welcome back to English for You. I'm Pat.
And I'm Mike. I guess you're Senor Pat.
Yes.
And I'm Senor Mike.
Senor Mike.
Because we're in Spain. Well, we're not really in Spain.
Not quite. We're in the Canary Islands, or
right.
the Canaries, which are a group of islands off the coast of North Africa, but they belong to Spain.
That's the point.
It's a Spanish-speaking country. They use Spanish money, or euros now. And that's where this article is set.
Yeah, but don't worry if you don't speak Spanish. Well, first of all, we don't speak Spanish. But if you can whistle like that, you might be in luck, because in La Gomera, which is one of the Canary Islands, we learned that there is an ancient whistling language. This is a very rugged, mountainous island. It's difficult to travel across it, and so communicating is always difficult. You can yell really loud, but that doesn't work so well, so people have learned how to whistle to communicate, because you can cover long distances using the sound of a whistle.
Let's find out more about how this works by reading through day 2 of the article.
Reading.
The whistling language of the Canaries. The whistling language of La Gomera is called Silbo Gomero. It's native to the island and has been around since Roman times. It was first developed by the Guanches, the first people to live on La Gomera. However, the Spanish people who settled there quickly picked it up. Thus, it's now a Spanish language. Silbo Gomero allows people to pass messages at considerable distances. The whistling can be heard as far as 5 kilometers away. Although there are only 6 sounds in the language, each one can represent a number of different letters. Speakers can vary the sounds in different ways, such as by whistling faster or slower. Silbo Gomero is hard to learn and requires a strong tongue and lips. Speakers also use their hands to help make the sounds. At one time, Silbo Gomero was in danger of dying out. Luckily, the local government now makes sure children learn it in school. Thanks to this and other efforts to keep it alive, the people of La Gomera will be whistling to one another for many years to come.
So part 2 of our article begins by saying the whistling language of La Gomera is called Silbo Gomero.
Silbo Gomero.
That's the language. So when we refer to Silbo Gomero, that's the whistling language that we're talking about.
Okay, interesting. And if you've never heard of it or never come across it, well, that's not surprising. It says it's native to the island and has been around since Roman times. Wow, that's very cool. So if something is native, this word is an adjective. It's spelled Native, and it basically means that is the place that it comes from. All right, things that are native to a certain part of the world, they come from that place, but they may have moved. They may have been brought or taken to other parts of the world, but if you go back in history, that is where they originally come from hundreds or thousands of years ago. For example, a lot of you might know that things like potatoes or, tomatoes, I should say, or corn were not from Europe,
no,
right?
Potatoes are also not from Europe.
They're also
American.
not from Europe. If you went back to the Roman times and you think of Italian food, they didn't have tomatoes in their food because those things came from the Americas. Now, of course, you can buy tomatoes anywhere in the world, but before the time of Christopher Columbus and people going to the Americas, tomatoes, corn, things like that were only found in the Americas. They were native to that part of the world. That's where they originally came from. For example, many of New Zealand's native birds, such as the kiwi, cannot fly.
That's true. Now, this language, as well as being native to La Gomera, it's been around since Roman times.
Wow.
Now, if you've been around, that means you've been in existence. Like, this restaurant has been around for years. It's been there a while. And this language has been around since the days of the Roman Empire. So we're talking 2,000 years and more. So it is a very old language. Well, now we learn that the language, was first developed by the Guanches. And the Guanches were the first people to live on La Gomera.
Thousands of years ago.
Yeah, so we're using native. The Guanches, they are the native people.
That's right. However, the article says the Spanish people who settled there quickly picked it up, right? So it wasn't only used by the Guanches for very long. Many Spanish people sailed down there to go fishing or to farm new land or something like that. And they settled there, it says, so they quickly picked it up. Well, to settle somewhere, settle is spelled S-E-T-T-L-E. It's a verb, and it basically means to move somewhere and make that your new home. You stay there. You don't just go there for a little holiday, stay for a few weeks or months and then head home. No, you move your home there, you settle down there, you start work there, you marry and build a home, and you live there for many, many, many years, maybe until you die, because that is your home. That's where you stay, that's where you've stopped, that's where you've settled. For example, Pat and Mike, the two of us, we've both settled in Taiwan.
We certainly have.
That's right.
Now, these Spanish people, we can call them settlers, use the word in a different way. They settled there and they picked up Silbo Gomero, this language. Now, to pick something up, this can be used in several different ways, one of which is explained in today's shortcut for you. Let's find out more.
Shortcut for you.
Hey, Aaron. Emily told me that you're learning how to dance.
I am. It's a lot of fun.
Are you taking dance lessons somewhere?
No, I can't afford to take dance lessons yet.
Well, how are you learning then?
I'm just picking up some interesting dance moves from music videos online for now.
So you only have one dance move, and it looks like you're picking something up. There must be better dance moves than that.
Not quite. To pick something up means to learn a new skill or language by practicing it rather than being taught it.
Oh, so pick something up means 透过练习而学会.
Yep, so I'm just watching dancers in music videos and practicing what they do.
Maybe you can try to pick up some of my dance moves.
No thanks. I've seen you dance, and I think I'll stick to the music videos.
Okay, welcome back everyone. So here, to pick something up means to learn something, particularly a language or a skill. For example, I've picked up a few Chinese words here and there, but I've not studied it properly in a long time. So I've kind of learned them through use or being around people, but I haven't sat down with a book and tried to learn it properly.
Aha. Then the article continues by saying, thus, it's now a Spanish language. So we learned it was invented by the Guanches people. The Spanish picked it up. So thus, because of that, because the Spanish have been using it for so long, it's now basically become a Spanish language.
Yeah, so they're using Spanish words. These whistles mean Spanish words.
Right.
That's kind of what we mean. Now, Silbo Gomero allows people to pass messages at considerable distances. We talked about all these valleys and mountains on La Gomera, so now we're talking about how we can get messages across them by whistling. And these distances are considerable. Considerable is an adjective. It's spelled C-O-N-S-I-D-E-R-A-B-L-E. It's a considerable word, that one. And because considerable means it's notably large in its amount or size or number and so on. So you go, okay, that's a considerable amount of money. That means it's a lot of money. We could also say, there is a considerable pile of work on Tommy's desk. That means there's a lot of work there. It's enough to make us go, hey, he's got a lot of work. So these distances are large enough that we go, hey, that's a long way.
It's more than you can ignore. That's right. How far? Well, how far are these considerable distances? Well, we read, the whistling can be heard as far as 5 kilometers away. That's quite a distance. And we know it's a distance because it's 5 kilometers, not 5 meters, 5 kilometers or kilometers. Yes, you can pronounce it 2 different ways, but you can only spell it one way, Kilometer. It's a noun, it's a distance, it's 1,000 meters. That's right, 1,000 meters, okay? So if you walk, maybe what would that be, a 5-minute walk? Maybe to cover a kilometer, something like that, 5 or 10 minutes, depending on how fast you walk. And a marathon, the example sentence tells us, consists of just over 42 kilometers. So when people run a marathon, it takes around 3 hours or so. So that's quite a distance. 5 kilometers. I bet if you yelled as loud as you could on a very quiet day, it would still be hard to hear someone from 5 kilometers away if they're just yelling with their voice.
Yeah, so this is why they use whistling. Maybe it carries better across the distance. Now, we're going to learn a few more technical things about this language here.
Okay.
The article says, although there are only 6 sounds in the language, each one, so that means each sound, can represent a number of different letters.
Wow.
Now, we don't put this in the article, but there are, as far as I remember, 2 vowels, which is the A, E, I, O, U sounds, and 4 consonants.
Really?
Yeah, and these 4 sounds kind of make up all the different sounds in the Spanish language. Somehow, these 6 sounds, 2 vowels, 4 consonants, make up the sound. So what it means is you kind of have to be able to think about what could that sound mean. So it's a language where you need to use your brain to figure it out.
Okay, use some logic.
Yeah, which means they have to make the messages as clear and simple as possible.
Okay, so it's not a good way to tell someone the plot of a long movie.
No.
But if it's help, or come here, or it's going to rain.
Ships are coming to the island.
Ships are coming. I lost my sheep, or something like that.
Yeah.
It works fairly well. Interesting. So how do they speak? Well, it says speakers can vary the sounds in different ways, such as by whistling faster or slower. Yeah, so there are some ways you can change or vary the sound. And vary is a verb spelled V-A-R-Y, and it basically means to change things, all right? A lot of people, for example, would say, I like to vary my diet. I don't like to eat the same thing every day. You like to vary the things that you make or order in a restaurant, so it's not always the same. It varies. For example, the cook can vary the dishes he makes by adding different ingredients.
Okay, now, Silbo Gomero is hard to learn, as I was just mentioning.
And you can't buy a dictionary.
No, these different sounds, you need to learn how to make them and also learn how to understand what each one could mean. And the article also says the language is hard to learn and requires a strong tongue and lips.
Oh, for all the whistling.
Of course, yeah. You won't be able to make these sounds and make them carry these considerable distances if you don't have a strong tongue and strong lips. And that's why we use the word requires here. Require is a verb. It's spelled R-E-Q-U-I-R-E, require, and it means you need it. And it's often essentially, if you require something, it's usually something you can't get by without. You can't do the thing you want to do without this thing if you require it. For example, we could say you require a college degree in order to get this job. If you don't have one, you can't get the job. It is required. There's nothing you can do without it.
All right, and speakers, it says, also use their hands to help make the sound. So speakers are people who speak Silbo Gomero, in this case. They also use their hands to help make the sound. Sure, anyone knows if you cup your hands around your mouth, that can make your voice louder. And also they can change the pitch or change the sounds that they're making by using their hands as well. Now, this language has been around for a long time, remember, 2,000 years or more than, but it says at one time, Silbo Gomero was in danger of dying out. Really?
That's right. Now, this phrase, at one time, means once, sometime in the past, but we also use it to mean no longer. So at one time, it could be a few years ago, it could be 50 years ago, but it's used to talk about something that's not true now. So once Silbo Gomero was in danger of dying out. Maybe there were few people left who spoke it. Because if something is in danger of doing something else, there's a risk that this thing will happen. So it was in danger of dying out. It risked dying out. We could also say, this lesson is so boring that I'm in danger of falling asleep.
Yes, but if things die out, this phrase, as Pat mentioned, is, well, it goes away. It dies. It's not there any longer. It no longer exists. We often use this with things that over a long period of time will get endangered, will get damaged, will start being neglected or ignored or not used by people, and they naturally, eventually sort of just fade away, sort of disappear. Sometimes it's not a big deal, like having a home phone has kind of died out, right?
True.
A lot of people don't have phones in their home.
Yeah, or video cassette players, tape cassette players.
Things like that, right? It kind of dies out as technology changes. Other things, it's bad. Like, of course, people are worried about tigers or elephants dying out in the wild. The number of them in the wild is going down, and of course, this is a terribly bad and awful thing. And languages do die out. If people stop speaking a language, the older people who know it will die. The younger people never learned it, and so the language can die out. So with certain things, it's definitely worth protecting them if they're in danger of dying out. For example, many animals, such as tigers, may die out unless we protect them. That's right.
Now, luckily, as the article says, the local government now makes sure children learn it, the whistling language, in school.
Great.
So it kind of says, right, we don't want this one to go away, so let's make sure it's taught. And thanks to this and other efforts to keep it alive, the people of La Gomera will be whistling to one another for many years to come. So, yeah, they have festivals about it. Kids are taught how to use it.
Cool.
So it's an important part of their culture now.
Yeah, like how they teach Aboriginal languages here in Taiwan.
So they want to keep these things alive.
Good.
To keep something alive means to stop it from dying out. We just learned about dying out. To keep something alive would be to try and stop that process from happening. And it's active. You take action. You do something to make sure this language or these animals still exist. So we could say Taiwan's native people work hard to keep their traditions and customs alive.
And their
they don't
languages
want to lose them.
That's right. And they want to keep them alive for years to come. This phrase basically just means for many years going into the future. We're not saying 50 years or 100 years, just for many, many years well into the future. For example, I hope to work at this company for years to come, for many more years.
All right, well, hopefully this language will continue to be used on La Gomera. We're going to finish the article right now and move to today's For You Chat question.
For You Chat.
So our question is, how many other ways can you think of to communicate without speaking? So let's ignore kind of writing and email and text. Let's think of how could you pass a message across a valley if you can't speak to the person?
Well, there's always waving, right?
Yeah.
You can use your arms. There's even languages that people have developed, like semaphore, that you could
with flags.
use your arms and some flags to make yourself more visible.
Smoke signals.
Smoke signals.
Where you kind of pass messages through different ways to kind of you use the smoke in different ways,
right?
And that's similar to using like Morse code with the lights, where it's like flash, flash, long flash, short flash, long, long, short, which will work with an alphabet so people can read flashes and go, aha, that's a message.
That's right. Of course, the problem with smoke signals and other things, if the wind is blowing, it's not going to work very well. Or if it's nighttime, it's not going to work. So sound, like whistling, is good. And
or
of course,
drums.
In Africa, talking drums have been around for thousands of years. People from one village will beat on drums in a certain rhythm or pattern, and that's a way of talking. And it's kind of like whistling.
Yeah.
Not too different.
There are many more like that. If you guys can think of any, discuss them, try and find out who uses those languages.
Send us a
Maybe
message
they
using
still
them.
do, yes.
Yeah.
But that is all we've got time for today. Thanks for listening, everyone. For English for You, I'm Pat.
I'm Mike.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Adios.
The whistling language of the Canaries. The whistling language of La Gomera is called Silbo Gomero. It's native to the island and has been around since Roman times. It was first developed by the Guanches, the first people to live on La Gomera. However, the Spanish people who settled there quickly picked it up. Thus, it's now a Spanish language. Silbo Gomero allows people to pass messages at considerable distances. The whistling can be heard as far as 5 kilometers away. Although there are only 6 sounds in the language, each one can represent a number of different letters. Speakers can vary the sounds in different ways, such as by whistling faster or slower. Silbo Gomero is hard to learn and requires a strong tongue and lips. Speakers also use their hands to help make the sounds. At one time, Silbo Gomero was in danger of dying out. Luckily, the local government now makes sure children learn it in school. Thanks to this and other efforts to keep it alive, the people of La Gomera will be whistling to one another for many years to come.
Vocabulary Review.
Native. This flower is not native to this continent. That's why it's more difficult to grow here. Settle. Natalia's great-grandparents moved to the U.S. and settled their family there. Considerable. The pumpkin is more expensive because of its considerable size. Kilometer. The runners started the 5-kilometer race as the people who came to watch cheered. Vary. The dinner specials at this restaurant vary by day, so please ask your server about them. Require. This job requires all employees to have at least 2 years' experience in a related field.